let us know if something else happens, and you get a fruit basket. We're going to work that out. We're going to make that happen. Um, okay, Carol, you're our favorite. We love you.
Mwah.
Okay, you got kisses. Okay, all right.
All right, let me answer Colette's question earlier before everything
Oh,
went tits
Oh,
up.
okay.
did I ask a
I
question?
know. I
You
forgot all
did. You
about it.
wanted me to. You wanted me to double check that Rosemary got mysteriously pregnant after Roman and Minnie.
Is that what I asked? No,
Basically,
my question was the blurb that you just read. There were a couple of things that you said um, that seemed odd.
I didn't write the blurb, but
Oh,
the
I
sen-
know, I know.
but the
I'm trying to
sentence.
remember what it was that I said that was
It was
like,
a. It was a.
it said
Yeah.
something like the somehow eccentric
Right, here we go.
Yeah.
neighbors. And what the
Yes,
Yeah.
hell does that mean?
here
And
we go.
then, uh,
I'm gonna
here
read it.
we, oh, okay.
Before long, the young couple is befriended by their somehow eccentric next door neighbors,
What does
Roman.
that mean?
That's what I don't know.
They're
Roman and
somehow eccentric, but we
that.
can't say how?
This is how it takes a year for our D&D group to move through a cave.
Oh, that's
we
awesome.
we get hung up on the details. All right.
Well,
Okay. Well, they.
sometimes those details keep you from dying.
Well,
All
I'm
right.
just
Good point,
saying.
Steph. Good point.
yeah.
Yeah,
If it weren't for Laura, I think we would all be dead
it's
many times
entirely,
over.
entirely possible.
So okay. So they are not somehow eccentric. They're wackos. They are in everybody's business, and
I don't know that that makes them wackos,
well, they're
right?
kind
I
of
mean, they're
well,
odd.
well, they're
They're
devil
odd.
worshippers also. So I mean, there's
Well, I
that.
mean, spoiler alert. Yeah,
I think we decided since the book is 50 years old, we weren't going to worry about
right.
spoilers.
But I mean, but okay. So the way that the book unfolds, though, is that so everything is from Rosemary's POV, which is nice considering the era. I can't think of a lot of serious books, and I mean, this I think is probably. I mean, it's maybe not horror, but it's probably classified as a
I would think it would
thriller,
be horror. I
right?
think it's I think it's a horror novel.
Okay, well then, well, but even so, it's probably horror. But I mean, even it is at least a thriller, if not a horror book, and it is from a woman's POV, which is
Mm-hmm.
unusual.
Mm-hmm.
But right, so it's sort of her slow journey after moving into this apartment building and meeting the neighbors and finding out she's pregnant and getting an obstetrician that's recommended by her eccentric neighbors, and then her kind of awful pregnancy experiences. And then it's like very slow building paranoia that something's not right and people aren't telling me the truth. And considering that in some blatant instances in this book, people don't tell her the truth. They like choose to tell her husband the truth because she's just a little lady. And
Nobody
like,
tells her the truth except for Hutch, and look what that got him.
yeah, poor Hutch, the
Yeah.
friend, gets offed after he's like, yeah, man, I don't know that you want to move into that building because crazy shit happens there. And do you know the building that they filmed? I think they did the exterior filming at in New York to be what's the name of the
Bramford.
Bramford.
Bramford. So do you know what established Manhattan building stood in for the Bramford?
No.
The Dakota,
Oh.
which
Wow.
also has a lot of bad juju and weird shit. And I mean it's you
Really?
know,
I never
it's a
heard of it.
19th century.
Wait,
Oh,
isn't that where John Lennon was gunned down?
yes. Yeah. He and Yoko had I guess Yoko still lives there. But yeah, so John Lennon was killed outside. Lauren Bacall had an apartment there for decades and decades, until she died. But yeah, a lot of established New York people lived there.
Hmm.
And it's a, I mean, it's a fairly well-known building as far as buildings go.
As far as buildings go, well, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not into buildings,
I
you
am
wouldn't know.
not. Usually,
But
I'm not really into
but if you
buildings.
see pictures of like Central Park, um, it's the Dakota is very apparent in the background, in a lot of those shots, depending on which direction you're facing. I mean, once you know what the Dakota looks like, you see it.
Hmm. Okay. Um, so so maybe we should now go back and kind of talk about the way the book unfolds. So I know we've kind of been through
Man,
that.
we're all over the place because we've already talked about this book for like 2.5 hours.
Right. It's true. So the book starts out with Rosemary and her actor husband Guy, also known as the dickhead. Um, they have just signed a lease to move into an apartment and then get a call that they can now move into the Branford. They had been on a waiting list, so they figure out a way to break the lease and decide they're going to go ahead and move in. Um, they have dinner with their friend, well, with her friend Hutch, something Hutchinson, I think, and he's like, whoa, maybe you should rethink this whole moving in thing because the Bramford has a horrible history of being
Of
of
witchcraft and cannibalism
and
and dead
suicide,
babies in the laundry room,
right?
and yes,
And a high suicide rate. Oh, we never talked about uh,
the
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 girl,
friend.
the friend.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of laundry rooms, so they move in, and
So they say, "Screw you, Hutch. We're moving
right,
into the crazy cannibal hostel, regardless of what you tell us."
yes, yeah. So they move in, and very early on, within the first few days, Rosemary is down doing her laundry, and there's another young woman down there who is telling her about, she was a drug addict living on the street, and this wonderful, wonderful couple, the Cassavetes, picked her up and moved her in. And at first, she thought it was going to be this weird sex thing, but they're just like grandparents to her. And she pulls out this charm type thing that's filled with this green fungally
Tanis.
yeah, Tanis. Now, I don't, since we did the audiobook, I'm going to assume that I hope that Tanis is spelled Tanas, which is Satan backwards. No, it isn't.
I know.
It's not, but it's an anagram, right? So when Hutch tells her, I'm skipping ahead. So when Hutch tells her that it's when Hutch tells her that it's an anagram, he's talking about he says the name is an anagram. That's the message she gets. I was thinking, no, it's the Tanis root. The Tanis is an anagram. It's Satan.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
Tannis,
that's totally different, and
and
it
yeah,
ruined
I
everything
and
for
I
me.
I don't think that it is real.
Yeah,
I
yeah. So,
Yeah, I think it was something fabricated for this
well,
story.
they should have made it better. They should have made it Tanas so that that could also be an anagram. So anyway, she's got this charm thing filled with this crap, this root that it just reeks, right? So so they get to be friends, or well, just for that one day, I guess, and then and
Yeah.
then they go out. They're coming back in, and they go out for dinner or some such thing. I don't know. And they're coming back, and there's police everywhere outside of the apartment building, and there is poor Terry. Uh, laid out with her head smashed in. She jumped from the window. She committed suicide. And then here down the street come the Cassavetes. And if you watch the movie, it's just so. It's almost word for word of how the book goes. So if you don't feel like taking the 6 hours to read the book, take an hour and a half and watch the movie. You get essentially the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it's true.
But that's when we get our first look at the Cassavetes, and they don't really seem all that concerned, about.
Yeah, they didn't really.
No, it's like, oh damn, now we got to find somebody else. And in the book, it doesn't say that she had that charm still on. It didn't say it specifically, but in the movie, they make sure that you see that it's perfectly laid out on the dead body. And that's important because shortly after that, after Minnie and Roman make friends with Rosemary and Guy, they gift Rosemary that charm.
Yeah, which is creepy as hell.
Yeah, and she's like, did they just like pluck that off of her dead body? And that was another thing, her husband. So just to get kind of caught back up, so her husband doesn't want to have anything to do with the Cassavetes immediately. Minnie had come over, introduced herself, started poking around the apartment and letting, pricing everything and just being a real busybody. And when Guy comes home, she says, we're going over to the Cassavetes for dinner. And Guy's like, I don't want to get involved in these people's lives. I don't want them involved in ours. And then after one dinner, Guy is like, I love them so much. They are the best. I'm going to go over and talk to them right now. And there's clearly something has happened during their dinner that makes Guy want to spend as much time as possible now with the Cassavetes. Somebody else talk. I'm going to drink.
Yeah, actually, I thought that maybe it was like some kind of glamour spell or something, right? That he was beguiled, but that ends up not being the case.
Yeah, I just immediately thought he is ready to. He's like, this could be really good for me in my career. So let's give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
He is pretty career focused for sure.
And it doesn't. In the book, she repeatedly talks about how self-centered he is. But it's not like it's a big character flaw. It's just because he's an actor.
Right.
That's how they are. He's really self-centered. He's so self-centered. Really, really self-centered. But that doesn't seem to bother her.
Yeah. Well, it bothers her enough to say it, but it doesn't bother her enough to take forward action.
Right.
And it's remarkable because she's like completely estranged from a Catholic family because she married this non-Catholic guy. That's pretty major. You would think that you wouldn't risk everybody in your family's ostracism for somebody who is a self-centered dick, but not Rosemary. She's, I guess, just looking for a reason to get away. I don't know. We don't really spend a lot of time talking about why she married Guy.
Yeah, we really don't get much of her backstory outside of the fact that she was raised Catholic. She's no longer religious, and her parents were pissed that she married this not Catholic guy. But beside that, we really don't get any information about her. Everything is very focused on what's happening right now. And to be fair, there's a lot going on right now.
Yeah.
So shortly after their dinner, Guy had previously been very anti-baby because he's a self-centered guy, right? He doesn't want anything that's going to take away from his career. And after spending like a couple, maybe two or three visits with Roman,
Yeah, it was quick.
he's like, you know what, baby, let's have that kid. I want to do this for you, just for you. We're gonna have this.
You are welcome.
Exactly. And she's like, really, really, guy? Oh, that's so wonderful. You're the best husband. And
Not that she has anybody else to judge him against.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, I even marked it on the calendar when we can try, because apparently he keeps track of her periods.
There was a lot more period talk in this book than I expected. I mean, it completely makes sense, right? But when she started talking to the neighbor's friend about her period, I was like, this is unexpected. Right? 1966, you just don't expect ladies to have a lot of period talk. But there it was.
There it was.
I mean, and ultimately it made sense, right? Why it had to be in there, right? Because they were figuring out when she was ovulating and when's the best time to try. And but I was surprised nonetheless, because the other things, the other little things that kind of blow by you that remind you the era when this was, is like he had some prolific Anison commercials that he was in, and the neighbor says, she's got to go to the store to pick up Sanka, and they're talking about Pall Mall cigarettes, and just little things like that. That's like, oh, yeah, okay, I remember when this is all taking place. That, and of course the fact that she isn't treated like a full human with agency.
Yeah.
That little niggling detail.
Yeah, minor detail,
Which
oh,
leads
you're
us,
just hysterical.
Yeah, which leads us to when she has so it comes up time for the day when she's most ripe, and so he gets this beautiful, they have a beautiful dinner, and
he was going to pick up a pie.
He was going to pick up a pie, but he forgot the damn pie.
Bastard.
But luckily, Minnie
to the rescue
brings chocolate mousse, or as she calls it, mouse. Minnie.
Chocolate mouse.
Chocolate mouse. So, Colette, you talk about the mouse.
Okay.
How delicious it was, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so they're eating it, and she's like, this has, I think she called it an undertaste, right?
Yeah.
It definitely tastes like something else. And he's like, no, this is so good. You need to eat this. And she's like, no, you should eat it. You should totally eat it, because she went to all this trouble.
Right.
Yeah, there's no undertaste, and you're just crazy. And no, I don't really want it. And then he goes to the trump card of, there's always something wrong.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, fine, I'll eat it.
Oh, it's delicious.
And so she, plays along, and then dumps a whole bunch of it into her lap and the napkin and throws it out. But I guess there was enough undertaste in it to render her unconscious, because that's when she has her creepy rape on the high seas with the Kennedys dream.
But who of us, who hasn't had that dream?
Sure.
Oh God.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think if anything was going to keep me from seeing the movie, as the only person among us who hasn't watched the film, like, it would probably be, I don't know that I'd really want to see her weird rape dream with the creepy.
It wasn't. It was kind of. What's the word I'm looking for?
I mean,
abstract.
well,
You
It
I
know,
was
mean,
super abstract.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, and in the book, it's made apparent that he tries and to make it very surreal, so that you can tell
yeah,
this is clearly a dream, right? Because
yeah.
why is Jackie Kennedy there? Why, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, like the actual where they're showing the actual sex act with the devil.
Mhm.
Uh, you don't see anything. There's there's some claws and some
A face
weird.
shot of
There
him.
there was not in the face, but a face shot. Um, and
Oh.
I know. I'm over here shaking my head. I'm waiting for Colin to get it. Oh,
Oh.
no.
not in the face.
So wrong. So
Yeah.
wrong.
So but then yeah, you really couldn't see what was going on with that.
Mhm.
So she, while she's having this dream and she's being raped, now she can also, she's, as part of the dream, there's all of the residents of the house,
Mm.
and they're all elderly. They are the youngest. They are clearly the youngest people who live in that building.
Now that
And
the other chick,
right,
took a half
right.
gainer out the window.
Right, right. Um, and so there's all these naked old people standing around, and I don't remember if that was described in the book, naked old people, but
It was definitely in the movie.
it was definitely in the movie. That was
I
probably
don't
the most
remember them being described as naked, but it's possible that I missed that subtle
or
detail.
blocked it out. But yes, in the
Maybe.
movie, they're very naked and they're standing around. And so, and at one point, she's like, "Oh my God, this isn't a dream. This is real." And then she wakes up the next morning, and she's got scratches all over herself, and she's wakes up naked in bed by herself, and her husband comes out of the bathroom and he says, "I know, I've already trimmed them back." And
Yeah, because she's got nail marks on her side.
yeah,
I think it
yeah, her
is.
sides and on her chest too, I think, maybe.
Don't remember that
Yeah.
part.
I don't remember that part either.
But and then at that point she's like, "What the hell did you do?" He's like, "Well, I didn't want us to miss our night." And she's like, "I was passed out. I was unconscious. You had sex with me while I was unconscious." He's like,
And he was like, "Well, I was drunk too."
"Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
like that
I was
excused it.
loaded. Yeah, I didn't want you to miss the night. It's our magic moment." She's like, "I wasn't there." And
Yeah.
so she was pretty pissed about that, as she should be. And in the book, she was very clear about just how pissed she was and made him very aware of it. In the film, they kind of, it got glossed over a bit more.
Now, I'm trying to remember, is that the point that she goes to Hutch and he says, "Why don't you go to my cabin and spend some time?" Right? Isn't
Yeah,
that what happens? And
yeah,
she actually leaves the creepy building and the naked old people, and she hangs out by herself for a while, and then she has a lot of inner monologue where she rationalizes it away, and she's like, "Well, what am I
hmm
upset about anyway? It's
Yeah.
fine."
yep, yep. That's exactly. Now in the movie, she does not do that. She doesn't
Mhm.
go anywhere.
No.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. And she goes away for a few days, partially because he's working on a play. It's a very demanding role, and his career has started to take off at this point.
Because the guy who was originally
Right?
cast goes blind,
Yeah,
like
Yeah. Yeah.
suddenly goes
Suddenly.
blind.
yeah, yeah, and and as so when we start off with Rosemary, she seems very naive, and as we move forward, she gets much less naive. Like she really starts putting things together. And granted, for a good part of it, she it seems like she's just feeling like she's paranoid. Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
but she comes back. She decides, well, water under the bridge. What's a little rape between between a couple.
And legally, at this point, there isn't such a thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
If your husband raped you in 1966 or 1967, that's not what that was. You
Right.
No.
you owed it to him as his property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just doing
So,
the conjugals.
I mean, right? So, I mean, at this juncture, what's she going to do anyway, right? Even if she decides, you know what, I'm not okay with this and I'm going to leave, where's she going to go?
Mhm.
She doesn't work. She's estranged from her family.
Mm-hmm.
She has one friend, Hutch,
Not for
you know,
long.
and then eventually Hutch, goes into a coma and does
Mm.
not live. She really doesn't have any options.
Yeah.
And
Nope.
legally, if she wanted to say, "Hey, this is not okay," the courts would be like, "Yes, it is."
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure it is.
Little lady, you're just hysterical.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You just need to calm down.
So she comes back, and they agree that they just need to communicate more. And she's
Yeah.
also late now with her period, because throughout the book there's immaculate tracking of her periods. So she's late. She goes to the doctor. She finds her own obstetrician, who's this great young up and coming guy who looks
Dr. Kildare guy.
Dr. Kildare,
Kildare.
played by Charles Grodin in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she goes to him and they take some blood, and he calls her up, says, "Yep, you're pregnant. Congratulations. And also, could you bring in we need more blood. So could you come back?" And she's like, "Oh my God, is everything okay? But I am really pregnant, right? I'm really pregnant." He says, "Yes, you are definitely pregnant." She says, "Okay, well, I'll come in. I'll come back in tomorrow or Monday or
Monday.
whatever, and I'll get you some more blood." Meanwhile, here comes Minnie Cassavet, and she says, "Oh, that guy is a nobody. I know." What is that dude's name?
Oh my God, we gotta look it up again.
Find
Hold on. Saperstein.
Saperstein. So he delivers all the babies of all the great people, all the society people. I want to go call him right
And
now.
I love that somehow that fucking matters, right? Like, I mean, what exactly is that sales pitch? Like, my hand has been inside the most important vaginas.
It's true. It is true. "Oh, my wife just bought me a new computer, so we don't have to go through this anymore."
Aw.
I love you, honey.
Yay!
She's the best.
EJ's the best.
So, so she goes and she's railroaded into going seeing Dr. Saperstein, which honestly, this is her conversations, especially her initial conversation with Dr. Saperstein, is one of my favorite parts of this whole thing, because he just looks at her and says, "Okay, I'm so glad that you're coming on board with me. Here's the thing. Don't read any books. Don't talk to any of your friends. Don't take any of those horrible prenatal vitamins. You need to have these natural things that Minnie is going to prepare for you."
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
she's just like, all right, whatever you say. She's so excited about being pregnant, she don't care.
"You want me to be stupid and just gullibly follow you wherever you want me to go? Okay. You're a doctor."
Yeah.
So she does. And eventually she gets really pissed off with Guy only wanting to spend time with their elderly friends. And she decides she's going to throw a party where no one under 60 is allowed in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when things really start heating up, because her friends are like, "Wait a minute, you've been having this intense pain for months? Who is the sadistic bastard you're going to see? You need to go get a second opinion." And after a bunch of going back and forth and crying and her husband getting pissed off because they won't let him in the room, She
Yeah.
decides, okay, I'm just going to go get a second opinion. And the husband's response, that's not fair to Dr. Saperstein.
Yeah, right? Oh, God.
That seems totally normal.
That's
That,
BS.
that's a normal response. So she, and at some point during all of this too, she has talked to Hutch, and Hutch, she tells him about the Tanis route and some other stuff. I forget how that whole conversation went, but Hutch is like, I need to do a little bit of research.
I think it's after Hutch is actually over at her place, and then Roman comes
That's
over
right.
and they meet.
That's right. Because as soon as it's like within minutes, so they're knock, knock, knock. Oh, Hutch, it's so good to see you. Come in and sit down. Knock, knock, knock. It's Roman. Like that
Yeah.
quickly. And
Mhm.
so you can tell that anytime anybody comes over, anytime anything is happening, the Cassavets, one or both of them, are right there at the door.
Yep.
They do not want to have anybody else have any contact with Rosemary at all.
And I guess there were enough red flags for Hutch, and
Mhm.
since he is male, and there is no concerted effort to gaslight him into believing that he's just having hysterical, paranoid, notions in his pretty little lacy head, that he like goes and starts doing research, and then mysteriously he's in a coma.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
And how long is he in the coma? Like
like
he's in a
three
coma for a
months.
long
Yeah.
time, and then ultimately he wakes up long enough to tell his friend, who is at his side in the hospital, that this book needs to go to Rosemary.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And then he dies.
So what happened? We missed a little bit there. So Hutch calls her that night
All right.
after he comes over. He calls her that night and says, "Do you ever leave the house? Can you come outside? Because I really need to see you." And she says, "Can we do this over the phone?" He says, "No, I need to see you. We need to talk about this." Guy comes in and says, "What the hell?" And and when Hutch is leaving, he can't find one of his gloves. That's important.
Right. Right.
So Guy says, "Oh, that's right." Guy says comes in after while she's on the phone with him, and after she gets off the phone with Hutch, she says, "Hutch, I'm going to go see Hutch tomorrow at 11." And Guy's like, "What the hell?" Okay. Oh, by the way, I just got this really intense craving for ice cream, and he leaves. And then she hears the doorbell over at at the
The
At Minnie and
Cassavet.
Romans,
Cassavetes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the next day she goes out to meet Hutch, and Hutch doesn't show up. He's never late. And so she waits like a half hour or something like that, and then she goes to a payphone and she calls, and she's told that, oh my God, Hutch fell into a coma this morning.
Mm.
Sorry. So now she's starting to be like, what the fuck is going on here? First, this dude
Mhm.
goes blind and her husband gets apart. Now Hutch goes, these are just weird shit happening.
Mhm.
Um, Meanwhile, then she goes to get her second opinion, even though it's unfair to Dr. Saperstein. She goes to Dr. Hill to get her second opinion on these pains she's having,
Mhm.
and goes. Oh no! I'm sorry. I always mess that up. She decides to go, and she goes to because
Dr.
her husband,
Saperstein.
right, because her husband says, at least go to Dr. Saperstein and give him a
Right.
chance.
Right. So she goes
yeah.
to Dr. Saperstein, and
She's taken off her
she
Tanis root thing.
yeah, and she is waiting in the she's in the waiting room because she did not have a scheduled appointment, but the receptionist is like, "Oh, I'm sure he'll see you." because she's seeing him what, like once a week?
Yeah, something
Which is
crazy. Yeah.
crazy. And of course, at this point, she looks like death warmed over.
She does.
Right? She's lost weight. And I mean, you know, if you know Mia Farrow, it's not like she's a meaty gal to begin with. And she's got these horrible dark circles, and her, you know, face is sunken in. And every time somebody that she hasn't seen in a while sees her, they're like, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" And she's like, "I'm pregnant." And it's like, okay.
You're supposed to be gaining weight, sister.
Yeah.
It's weird, but okay, congratulations. You know, I mean, really, she looks like she's going to birth the tapeworm, but anyway, so she's in the waiting room and then talking to the receptionist. That's when she learns that the doctor wears tannis root as well. And that's when she's like, okay, yeah, he's in on this. And it's like she's packed a bag and she has
she's ready to
gone
go.
into her husband's like stash of cash that he, which is like under $200. But I mean, so she's got cash and she's got a bag and she is ready to find out what's going on. So she just sort of picks up her bag and hoofs it on out of there and then goes to see Dr. Hill, the first obstetrician.
Hold on. We missed a big part.
We are terrible at this. We are terrible at this.
We missed a big part because by this point, Hutch is dead.
Yep.
And she goes to the funeral and Hutch's friend gives her the book that Hutch was working on or was researching in.
That he said this needs to go to Rosemary right before
and the lady says, he told me to tell you that the name is an anagram. And at that point, that's when I was thinking about the whole Tannis thing, but clearly I was wrong. And what it is Roman is the son of the head of the devil worshippers, whose name was Adrian Mercado.
Mercado.
And Roman's real
name... Who
name...
was one of the famous witches that lived in the Bramford with, so initially when Hutch is like, all these crazy things have happened in this building, that dude was one of the crazy things. Now, he got killed outside the building, is that right?
Well, that's what they told, that was the story, but it turned out, right, that he was killed outside of they said he was killed inside the building, but he was really killed outside. Right.
Yeah. So, she basically pulls out the Scrabble tiles and is trying to make an anagram of the title of the book, which I think was called All of Them Witches.
Yes.
And I don't think that she comes up with a reasonable anagram for that, but that's when it suddenly occurs to her to take the name Adrian Mercado and see if there is an anagram, and of course that ends up being Roman Castevet.
Yeah. No, it was wasn't it Stephen? It was Stephen Mercado.
You're right.
Yeah.
So I guess Adrian
was the dad. And Stephen is the kid.
Adrian and Stephen had Roman.
No, Stephen is Roman.
God damn it, I can't.
We need alcohol for this.
Yeah, Stephen Mercado changed his name because of all of the stigma.
To Roman Castevet.
Okay,
right. And Adrian Mercado was the one who was killed outside.
Yes.
For practicing witchcraft.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So she has. So she's figuring all this stuff out.
We really should write down like chronological bullet points for this.
This is more fun. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
All right.
So she's almost all the way done with this book, and she's really figuring things out at this point. So Guy, she hasn't figured out that Guy is a horrible.
Right, which is why she fucking tells him every single thing that she figures out. And
Yes.
is
And then
I'm
he throws her
assuming
book
that
away.
Andy, when you were like, oh my God, I just want to slap her, I'm assuming that some of that was why, because, you know,
Yep.
she spends all this time reading this book and he comes home and he's like, what's going on? And she's like, oh, well, let me tell you.
Yep.
Let
Let me tell you
everything
everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to
I
slap that
think
character more
I
than
think
once.
that Roman is actually the son of the witch who was killed in this building, and I think that they want to steal my baby. And like she just outlined the whole thing to him, and he was like, I need to go to the laundromat or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Ding dong.
Because every time he learns
I
something,
need to
he
take a
just
walk or something. Yeah.
goes next door and tells him everything, and then suddenly somebody's blind or deaf or dead.
Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous.
So he throws the book away because clearly it's upsetting
Because
her.
that's what you do when you respect somebody.
Yeah.
Particularly
Yeah.
since it was the last thing that was given to her by her best friend before he died.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
she's
So you wouldn't want her to keep it because that would just be upsetting.
and so she tears into him pretty good, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't think about it. Also, I need to go take a walk and talk to nobody. I'm not going to talk to anybody." Ding
No.
dong.
Right.
So she packs up her bag. She goes and buys some books. And starts reading more, and then she goes to see Dr. What is
Hill.
this? Huh?
Oh, Saperstein?
Dr.
Saperstein.
And finds out about the Tannis that he wears, and then she hotfoots it out of there and gets in touch with Dr. Hill, goes to see him, and Dr. Hill's like, oh, that's really interesting. Don't you worry about a thing. Come on in here. You need some rest. And we're going to get you in the hospital right now, but I need to pull some strings, so just take a load off. She dozes off, and the door opens up, and in comes Dr. Saperstein and her dirtbag husband, who drag her ass back to the apartment, where she eventually gives birth, and they tell her then that the baby is dead. And her husband's response is essentially, don't worry about it. We'll just have another one.
Yeah. We'll just replace that with another one.
Yeah. So then she hears babies crying, and they've got her laid out in bed and pumping her breast milk, and she becomes suspicious because at this point she's suspicious of everything and everyone, as she should be. And she figures
as
it
she
out.
should have been. 15 chapters earlier.
Yes. So she figures it out, and she knows that they've got her baby. She can hear it next door because the walls are paper thin. So she can hear the baby. She goes to the secret passageway and sneaks in. In the book, did she have a knife?
Yeah, she went into the kitchen and grabbed the sharpest knife that she had.
Yes. So she sneaks in, and one thing we haven't talked about this third time around is the racism, and this scene always brings it front and center. So she goes in, and there's a party happening, and she walks in, and
they're watching. Weren't they watching television? I'm trying to remember what they were watching.
I don't know. Were they?
I don't remember.
Because when she walks in, they're sitting there on the couch watching television.
Huh. And I remember that that there was like party clothes, and people were bringing wrapped gifts. They were wrapped in black, and that was different in the film. They weren't.
Well, and it's right. So one of the things that she figures out is how to enter that apartment from her own apartment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because there was this bookcase that was, when they moved in, was pushed up against, what the guy showing the apartment was like, that's weird because there's a closet there, right? Yeah. And then they moved the bookcase and they realized there's a linen closet there, but they don't know why it was covered up. Right. But then she pieces together that the woman who who owned the apartment that she moved into, had died. Right? She fell into a coma and died. Sounds
Ooh.
familiar, right?
Yeah.
And she had been growing herbs and stuff for them, probably like tannish root and whatever else, whatever, Eye of Newt and other kind of witchy things. Right. And then that woman obviously had a falling out with the Castevets. And obviously, you could, once you pulled the shelves out of that linen closet, you could pass through into their apartment. So she grabs the knife and then tests it. And she's absolutely right. So she goes right into their apartment. And that's how she's able to sort of sneak in. And then I guess she sees the bassinet with the black fabric draped on it and the crucifix upside down over top. And her husband's there, right? Isn't he chilling too?
He is.
The whole gang is there.
Like a family reunion.
Except for Satan.
Well, I mean, he's there in spirit.
Oh, he had other engagements.
Yeah. So, and then there's also a bassinet, all black bassinet with black curtain over it, and the upside down crucifix for the baby to play with, as babies do.
Yes, it's their favorite.
It is. It was Micah's. I mean, I don't know about anybody else. So they finally notice her. And they're like, "Oh shit! You need to get away, get her out of there." And I forget what happens after that. All I remember,
Steps up.
Yeah, I mean, so she has a moment where she is considering grabbing her baby and jumping out the window with him. Right, but then Roman kind of. I guess he takes a more psychological approach and tries to, implore her as a mother and, kind of make an offer that, you could be a mother to this child and, this child that they've named Adrian. And she's like, no, his name's Andy, because we all know that the coming of Satan will be Andy.
Yes.
Woo, look out.
But yeah, I mean, it really does not take long for Rosemary to decide, well, I can make this work.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not so bad.
My cloven hooved little
Claws.
demon baby.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Reptile eyes, claws. Yeah.
Yeah, his goat horns and...
He's kind of adorable. It's kind of adorable. Yeah. So that's pretty much the end. She decides that he's not so bad. He's kind of cute.
Not so bad.
Calls him Andy Candy. I think that's what we should call you from now on. Andy Candy. My little Andy Candy.
No, but she's able to push down all her best interests throughout this entire book.
All the way up until the end.
Up to the end.
Even when she realizes, what she has basically unleashed upon the world, it's okay. I can make this work, I guess.
Yep.
So whatever sort of sympathy that I had for Rosemary up until that point was like,
Gone.
Really? I mean, because when she was like, I could grab him and go out the window and make this right, I was like, yes, do that. That would have been such an amazing and empowering ending for this book. Even if she died, it would have been like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
But instead, okay, so you guys saw the movie. I know that the movie is known for the fact that they choose not to show the baby. But
that's correct.
Instead, she looks sort of horrified, I guess. And then you just kind of use your imagination on how you expect Satan's baby to look.
Yeah.
I kept waiting. I kept waiting for them to, to show at least a face shot with his eyes, with his glowing eyes, with the goat pupils. but not a
How would they have done that?
I mean,
How would they have done that in 1960?
yeah, I don't know.
They didn't have
That's
CGI,
true.
and I don't know that they were going to put contact lenses in a baby's eyes.
I would have
No.
heart,
So,
Oh my God, no. Ah.
so I mean, it's interesting. I mean,
It's true.
so one, you could say that there probably was just an issue with feasibility, like how are we going to get this shot? And two, I mean, you could still say having them imagine it was probably far more powerful than actually showing a thing.
Yeah.
But we haven't even talked about Roman Polanski.
Talked about what?
Roman Polanski.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. We don't need to. We're out of time.
Nah. Ah!
Hold on, Aga.
I mean, because it does bring up the interesting concept of, when you have someone who is not just super duper jacked up flawed, like rapist flawed. I mean, do you continue to see their work, and how does it change how you view their work? And, and I will mention what I mentioned before, which is that Mia Farrow is like a swirling bullseye of
I
weird
feel so
rapey
bad that you
dudes.
say that. It's not
true,
her
though.
fault.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that it is her fault. I'm not saying that there's some sort of biochemical reason. But, I mean, she is like 1 degree of separation from a whole bunch of rapists.
It's true.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that.
We talked about it yesterday, drunkie.
No, I was thinking of my mind was doing other things too.
That is
Okay.
probably very true. But
Hey!
right. So this movie is about being raped, right?
Yeah.
It was directed by a rapist. She was in a long relationship with Woody Allen, who is accused of raping Mia Farrow's daughter. And her son, Ronan Farrow, is massively involved in outing rapists in Hollywood, and wrote that book.
Did you read that?
Sherry. No, because for the same reason that you were like, I read it, but I don't want to talk about it.
It was good, but it was I mean, it was just
seems
so
like
depressing.
it would be sort of physically, emotionally exhausting to read.
And I read that after I read Rose McGowan's book.
Oh God.
Which was very interesting and sad, and I guess empowering to some degree, but yeah, I mean, I had to like read comic books or something after reading those two. It was I can't take anymore. Oh, and then I read the Missoula one about date rape right after that, or in the middle of all that. I can't take anymore.
Yeah, no, what the hell?
Yeah.
Well, this has been this this has truly been a labor of love, y'all, because this is the third time that we've done this, and I know that the first two that y'all didn't get to see were, awesome.
The
that I can
second one
remember.
was the best. The second one was awesome. I mean, this one was good. It's good.
Are we gonna try and edit the beginning of this one with all the echoes? Are we gonna trim that part off, or no?
I don't know. I think I'll just put something in the description that says skip ahead to right here to miss all of the echo and trial. But hopefully we won't have to deal with that anymore. And Carol, you are the best.
Really. You're the best, Carol.
You are the best.
Props to you, Carol.
Andy Candy says, well done.
Hail, Andy.
Hail, Andy.
Hail, Andy.
All right.
All right.
Well, thanks for tuning in, call yourselves. Up before, but y'all, by March we're going to have nothing but video shows. We're phasing out, and Sherry is transitioning those files into YouTube. So be prepared.
Be prepared. All right, so I'm clicking the button. Goodbye, everybody.
Clicking the button. Bye.